We all think of our homes as our sanctuary, right? It's the one place in the world where you're supposed to feel totally, completely safe. But what happens when that feeling gets ripped away? When the threat isn't some abstract fear, but it's literally standing on your doorstep? Today, we're going to break down some seriously unsettling stories where that line between safe inside and scary outside gets terrifyingly blurred.
Seriously, think about it for a second. What is it for you? A floorboard creaking upstairs? A weird whisper from a room that's supposed to be empty? Or is it the sound of someone at your door? Someone who has absolutely no reason to be there? That exact question, well, it's right at the heart of our first story. So our first story takes place in what's described as a peaceful and ordinarily safe little town. And the person at the center of this is just a 12-year-old kid. His parents trust him to stay home alone for the very first time. I mean, it's supposed to be the perfect night. Okay, so picture this. His parents are out for the night, he's got his video games all lined up, and he's got a pizza on the way. For a 12-year-old, this is heaven, right? He orders from a local place, Gianni's, a family favorite. Everything is totally, completely normal, until the pizza guy shows up.
And that's the question. The driver asks it while looking right past the kid into the house. It's such an odd, creepy question, and it just immediately shatters that whole vibe. The kid, trying to be smart, says his parents are on their way home, but that little seed of fear, it's already been planted.
So fast forward a few hours, it's about 11 p.m., the kid's been deep into his video games. The doorbell rings, and of course he thinks, oh, my parents are home. He runs downstairs, calls out, Mom, Dad, but the voice that answers isn't one he recognizes. It's a man's voice saying he needs help, that he needs to use a phone.
The kid knows better than to open the door, obviously. He decides to just ignore the guy and head back upstairs. But as he's on the staircase, the man starts banging on the door, saying, Wait, please, I need help. And then comes this moment of just pure terror. The kid realizes the man can see him through the decorative glass at the top of the door. He's not just knocking anymore, he's watching him.
He bolts to his parents' room, gets his mom on the phone, and she immediately calls the police. But while he's on the line with her, he hears it. This quiet, soft sound of the side gate to the backyard opening. His mom tells him to stay quiet, but then the worst possible sound follows. Footsteps. Downstairs. Inside his house. The threat isn't outside anymore, it's in the house with him. The boy's hiding under the bed in his parents' room. The door is locked, and he's just listening as the intruder walks up the stairs, checks the other bedrooms, and then stops right at his door. He hears the doorknob press down once, twice. It's locked. Then there's a light knock, but no words. And then the footsteps retreat. The police show up a few minutes later to find a back window slid wide open.
Okay, let's shift gears. For our next story, we're going to see how this same theme of violated safety plays out in a completely different setting. We're going from a quiet suburb to this massive, isolated home deep in the forests of North Idaho. I mean, look at this. On paper, it's a dream come true, the ultimate escape from it all. But what happens when that beautiful isolation turns into a source of absolute dread? The narrator, a teenager living there, starts to get this overwhelming fight-or-flight feeling one night. Just this unshakable sense that somebody is watching him. And yeah, his gut feeling was spot on. Later that night, he looks out a basement window and sees him, a man who looks homeless, with wild, matted hair and just filthy clothes. But it's his face that's truly terrifying, a huge, creepy smile, wide, staring, totally deranged eyes, and a knife in his hand that he's just gently tapping against the glass.
So the police come, but they find nothing. For weeks after, though, this kid is just tormented by a faint tapping sound every single night coming from the room below. He starts to question his own sanity. Is he just experiencing auditory pareidolia, where your brain basically tricks you into hearing things because you're so paranoid? Or is someone actually down there, night after night?
And then winter comes, and the snow with it. One morning, after hearing footsteps and a slow, hollow knock the night before, he goes outside. And there it is, the proof. Fresh human footprints circling the entire property, with deliberate stops at every single window. It's like someone was systematically looking for a way in, or maybe just looking in.
That night, the tapping comes back, and the kid has just had enough. He grabs a shotgun, steps out onto the second-story deck, and sees the man standing there in the yard, lit by the floodlights. Same smile, same dead eyes. He yells a warning, the man doesn't even flinch, so he fires one warning shot into the air. The man finally staggers back into the woods and is never seen again.
All right, our last story kind of brings all these elements together in the most classic horror setting you can imagine. We've got a group of 6 college friends who rent a cheap, remote cabin in South Carolina for spring break. It's supposed to be a fun, carefree trip. You can probably guess it doesn't stay that way.
So the first night, one of the friends wakes up at 4 a.m. to a tapping sound. There's a man standing outside his window, his face pressed right up against the glass, just staring. They manage to scare him off, but they make a huge mistake. They stay. The very next night, the terror just skyrockets. They find the same man inside the cabin. He's standing in the kitchen, completely naked, his back covered in raw, deep scratches.
And sound familiar? Just like in our last story, they find evidence that they were being watched. Bare human footprints circling the whole cabin, with pauses at every single window. It is a chillingly similar pattern. This wasn't random. They were being cased, stalked.
So the friends flee. They call the sheriff, and the deputy's response. This might be the most unsettling part of the whole story. He's not surprised at all. He just calmly says, "Yeah, we've had some trouble with folks squatting up in those woods, not always right in the head." No urgency, no real investigation, just this terrifying acceptance that this kind of danger is just out there.
So what do we do with all this? What did these 3 absolutely terrifying encounters actually tell us? Well, when you lay them out side by side, a very clear and very disturbing pattern starts to show up.
I mean, just look at this breakdown. It's like they're all following the same creepy playbook. Each one starts with observation. The pizza guy asks a direct question, the other 2 watch from a distance. Then comes the testing phase, knocking, tapping on glass, probing for a reaction. And finally, the invasion. This isn't random, it's a methodical escalation. It's designed to find and exploit vulnerability.
What all these stories really hammer home is just how quickly our illusion of safety can be completely shattered. A suburban house, a dream home in the woods, a vacation cabin, these are places that are defined by the security they're supposed to give us. But these stories show they're really only as safe as the glass in the window or the lock on the door.
And that really leaves us with one final, lingering thought, doesn't it? For every single person who actually saw the face at the window, how many didn't? How many times have footprints been left in the snow or the mud outside our own homes, only to be washed away before we ever saw them? How many times have we been watched and never even known it?